we continue our conversation around Ol Kalou Decides on governance and lessons. And to be able to guide that conversation with us this morning is Chepkoech Towett, who is a governance analyst, and she joins us for the first time in the Situation Room. Good morning.
Good morning, Du.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Yourself?
Well, thank you. Karibu
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's a different kind of day, and for all intents and purposes, maybe it shouldn't be, but I guess those are some of the things that we'll be talking about today. But before we do that, as we normally do, we'd love to hear your interpretation of the proverb that Dennis will share.
All right.
Our proverb today comes from Libya, a beautiful country, rich in resources, especially petroleum products. They have what they call sweet crude, and sweet crude it takes a shorter time to process before you get the finished product that we use in our vehicles, in our jets today. Now, the proverb is a thief, whether he steals meat from a pot of soup or he steals diamonds. How would you interpret it?
Now, there is another colloquial term, mtaani. Mwizi hapendi kuibiwa. And so a thief is a thief. And I remember this when in the 2022 elections, and there's a section of Kenyans who kept saying, "Huyu mwizi ni nani? Ni wetu." And now when the thief comes and they start to steal from you, you should not complain. Because anyway, we have said a thief is a thief.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether they steal diamonds, they steal meat from a pot, at the end of the day, a thief is a thief. And choices have consequences.
Well said.
They do. The crowds that we see at Ol Kalou this morning are the folks who are coming out to vote, who are going to activate their democratic rights to make a decision about who a leader will be. But beyond that, they seem to be making a decision on governance and leadership. Listen to the things that people said as we took that bite from our reporter. And they said, the overall thing is that we just want life to be a little bit better. We want change. We want the development that they have told us would be here over time has never happened. And so that goes directly to governance issues. They may call it tunatafuta ya kuosha nguo na kukaa vizuri kwa nyumba na chakula ya kukula, but they're saying governance. That's what they're saying. Is the message reaching home?
There's what the people want, and there's what is being delivered. When you look at what people say, they're talking about economic issues. They are talking about, the burden of being a Kenyan today, the burden of the economy today. But again, this election today in Laikipia, in Nyandarua, unfortunately, will not be about policy, will not be about agriculture in Nyandarua, will not be about education in Nyandarua, will not be about the roads in Nyandarua. It is about a supremacy battle of two individuals who have decided that they will show their might and power today in Ol Kalou, because again, as we know, whoever emerges the winner today will then dictate what happens in the mountain. So unfortunately, the issues will not be spoken to in Ol Kalou today. That is not what the candidates or whoever is behind the candidates want to deliver. Unfortunately, the people of Ol Kalou are not at the center of the conversation. It's about the vote. Yes.
And you say it is a sad place to be in, because since morning when we were talking to residents of Ol Kalou who are queuing right now, there's an old lady who said, an elderly lady, I beg your pardon, who said, President wetu, tunaomba watu wasitupige, sisi ni watu wa amani. That gentleman has said, we are voting in for a person who will come to bring in change, because the previous guy never delivered. There is what the people are saying, but that is being ignored, and intentionally so. So one then asks the question, as the people of Ol Kalou today are going to vote with hope that whoever comes in is able to change their life, how do we reconcile that with the two honchos, who for them is a supremacy battle? How do they reconcile with the fact that beyond whoever will control the mountain, this is what the people of Ol Kalou want? Or does that just doesn't matter to them?
In the last about 3 election cycles, I think that is from 2013, what we have seen come in as presidents or members of parliament or even senate and governors, none of them has been about what people want. There's what people will campaign for during the campaign trail with their manifestos and the platforms and what they will promise to the people. But unfortunately, we are yet to see anyone actually deliver on what it is they say they will deliver to Kenyans. That story will continue to play out in Olkalau today. We have seen it in Emurwadikir, we saw it in Bere. I think recently we saw it in Bere saying that there are lights that had been put or they had been promised and suddenly there was darkness. You know, that goes to show that we deliver for what we want then. It is a short-term promise. It is... I give you something that entices you to get back what I want. Once I get back what I want, you are on your own. Unfortunately, Kenyans have been on their own for a long time. We have been on our own since 2013. If you follow all the manifestos that were given by the different presidential candidates who've come successfully, none of them has delivered for Kenyans. So what makes you think that Olkalau residents will get what actually they want today? Does that... from the precedents that we have seen, from the history, does that give you hope that the people of Olkalau will get what they want?
But nobody's listening to them, Chep. Nobody's listening to them. And if this morning is anything to go by, then they probably have been saying this, but nobody has been listening to what they are saying. If we look at the geography of where this place is, and if we look at what they've told us, what do they have in terms of what they can do? This is a town that's nestled within a county that receives development funds, that receives capitation for schools, at least at the ECD level, and even beyond that. What they've been saying has not translated into what governance ought to deliver. And I dare say that it is not the only place in Kenya where you will find an example of such. So how then do you essentially deliver the people from that? And that's the governance that we are talking about.
It is a good question, and it is a discussion that we should have as Kenyans. Unfortunately, when it comes to governance, we have allowed ourselves to be boxed into the thinking of one term and two term. Why do I say that? If we remove the personalities from the politics, then it means we have a chance to discuss exactly what the people want and to listen to the people, as you're saying. Because the unfortunate part is that people are talking, but no one is listening. So how are we going to listen to the people? We have to remove the personalities from the politics if we are to make headway in terms of policy and in terms of development and delivery for the people. Because once you bring the personalities and the bloodlines into politics, then the issues are diluted. But the issues will always remain. When we talk about education and capitation fund, like you said, we always see the issues come into the even national politics away from the constituency. But nobody listens because we have made our politics about personality. It is about time that Kenyans sat down. And this is a good test for 2027. In fact, this is the litmus test for 2027. We are hoping that there will be no other by-election, but that is why both parties are putting in the might to show that, you know what, we can do this, to spend all the money that they need to spend. But are they listening to the people? So it is about time that as Kenyans, we use this as a litmus test to say, you know what, remove the names from the politics. This is what we want. And if you're not listening, we are sending you home. Because I think we have forgotten the power of this. What I have with me for the audio listeners is a vote. What we have forgotten is the power of the vote. We have forgotten how this vote works. We have forgotten that this is delegated power to these people, to the leadership. And so if they don't listen, what happens? We send them home. And we bring someone who listens, someone who will discuss the issues. We call Nyandarua constituency town ya cash crop za Nyandarua, potatoes. What happens to these potatoes? What is the value chain of these potatoes? What is the end product of these potatoes? Could this have been a policy for a candidate who's vying to say, listen, when I come in, these our potatoes, what can we do to add value to it? So then you will have the farmers listening to you. But is anyone talking about that? We have narrowed the politics into politics of personalities, and it is unfortunate for Kenyans. And that is where we were boxed into the one-term and two-term conversation. When you scale it up to the national conversation, nobody is talking about what Kenyans want. Everybody is saying either or. But what about the will of the Kenyans?
You know, Chepkoech, in this by-election and even the campaign period, I've actually just thought about it that we've not even for once heard about the agenda that even the candidates are selling.
No, nobody has.
Nobody has.
Nobody
because
has.
What we've had mostly is it's 2-term, it's 1-term.
Yeah.
It is DCP versus
UDA.
That's all we've had. We've not had about the agenda of these individuals and what they want to do for the people.
Unfortunately.
And sadly, is that even the people of Olkalau themselves have not demanded that these conversations be held. Goes to speak about even us as Wananchi and shaping the agenda of what it is we want. Because the people of Olkalau would have said, hey, excuse me, it is DCP, it is UDA, but beyond all that, this is what we want.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Yeah.
So how do we re-engineer this for that vote to make sense and for that vote to form the agenda?
It is good that we are now realizing, albeit too late, that nobody talked about the agenda in Olkalau. Because it is good because it is timely for the national conversation. That we have to set a different agenda beyond the personalities. The agenda is set either by the people, and it is fortunate that the media, the fourth estate, is part of the people who set that agenda. So then, like you said, how do we re-engineer the conversation? We need to put away the personalities, because at the end of the day, beyond today, 5 p.m., and when the elections will be announced, and when the winner will be announced in Olkalau, the residents of Olkalau will remain with their problems. Whoever wins will come to parliament to join their cronies and advance their agenda. But the problems of Olkalau will remain with the people of Olkalau unless they hold their leader responsible enough to say that, you know what, we sent you there for a reason, then wanabaki na shida zao. So that should be a reminder to Kenyans that beyond 2027, if we do not rethink how we have these conversations about who we are electing, we will remain with our problems, if not anything worse than the current problems we have now. So we need to start changing mindset to say, what do we want? What do we want as Kenyans? Because beyond Rigiji, beyond the president, beyond any other candidate that will come forth, if we don't think about our problems, tutabaki na mashida mingi kuliko zile tuko nazo.
Chep, you know, when you look at election cycles, right, there is, or rather how I look at it is, Kenyans know that every 5 years we go to vote. But to vote for what is what Kenyans have never really decided. Because beyond the casting of vote and winners being announced, there is never the conversation of, we need you to come back home so that we hold you accountable. Us, tunapiga kura na tunaishia. Then after 5 years, we'll come back and vote again depending on what wave is there. As Wananchi finally in 2027, people have to be jealous for their constituency, their wards on what it is they want to be done, and demand that wewe ni wapi Nakuru East and Nakuru East tuache sisi watu wa Olkalau to decide what it is we want. Is that a clever way? Is that a new way of looking at things?
We have to find new ways to ensure that our vote matters. It is only a mad person who will keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We have been doing the same thing and expecting change. It is time that we come back to ourselves and ask, this that we have been doing has not worked for the last whatever many election cycles. So how do we want this to work? What is this that we want to work? If we are truly talking about changing my constituency, changing my ward, changing my country, what is this change that I want to see? When I talk about my ward, I come from Langata constituency, Mugumoini ward. What is this that I want to see in Mugumoini ward change? The people who've put their bid forward, are they speaking to that conversation? Are they speaking to that change that I want to see? If they are not, you're out. Because when you see, it is like a conman. When a conman wants something from you, they don't give you time to think. And that is what has happened in Olkalau. That's why the issues have not been spoken to. A conman, hata akikupigia simu, they don't give you time to think. It is one thing, did you check your phone, change your PIN, I'm calling from where? So by the time you realize what's going on, it's too late. They've either stolen from you or whatever has happened has happened. But if someone is genuine, they come, they put forth their bid. and say, this is my track record, this is what I want to do. I have gone around the world and I have had your issues, this is what I want to fix, this is what I want to change together. And in leadership, there has to be a conversation. In governance, there has to be a conversation. Where I speak, you listen, we do together. But you cannot always be speaking to me and speaking at me and speaking down, to me. That is what has been happening with leaders, unfortunately, to Kenyans. Nobody gives the citizenry the respect they deserve enough to hear and listen to what they want and deliver for that. Unfortunately, again, on our side as citizenry, we do not track some of those promises that are given to us. Yeah. We don't even know the track record of people who come to ask for this vote. You asked me about a thief and the proverb at the beginning, and I am talking about all levels of leadership here. Yeah. Nobody says, wait a minute, who is this guy? Is he going to deliver for us? Who is this lady? Are they going to deliver for us? So if we are to re-engineer how things are going to happen in 2027, the conversation has to be as local as where you come from. They say all politics is local. But when you have big personalities overriding the conversation and overriding the issues, then the issues will get lost in those personalities. So we have to sit with a leadership that listens, but also elect people who listen. But beyond the electing, we have to track. How do we track the manifestos and the promises that are made to us as Kenyans? Because we should have, in any other corporate situation, or even, it's just politics that there is madness. But in any other same industry, people come back and have annual meetings to say, this is what I said, this is the far that we've come, this is what we've delivered, this is where the challenges are. It is only in Kenya where someone will come to ask for a vote, and you will only see them 4.5 years later.
True.
Okay, Chepkoech, the word that you used and the term that you used was re-engineer. And that means that for the longest time, you've been going in a particular direction where it was almost given that, politicians could come and, make fun about town and give people things, and they would go home knowing that because I delivered 1, 2, 3, that I am guaranteed of that vote. Perhaps things are looking a little bit different. Have the electorate of the country, from where you see, matured politically to the point whereby you can say, you know what, that it is when somebody comes bearing gifts, you can see through and you know that this is the real situation. That whether you got a gas cylinder, whether you got a mattress, whether you got whatever it was, that it has remained clear to you that these things could have been done earlier, but they were not. So that person then cannot be your choice moving forward. Do you think that people have matured to that point?
Yes and no. Yes, because when we see counties like Nyandarua, specifically Olkalau, on the spotlight, then we can see that there's a section who will say tutakula pesa lakini kura tutakupa. But also when you sit with people and you have conversations, because again our politics is based on populism, politics of populism and personalities, we go back to, we almost retreat to our cocoons of mtu wetu. But with a spotlight of Olkalau, we saw people say, you know what, that candidate, I think of DCP, beyond what he had or didn't have, this was our choice when the party primaries were going on. But can we sustain this conversation and replicate it to the 290 constituencies and the over 1,000 wards that we have? Yes, we can. But also it depends on how we drive the conversation. It depends on if we bring out the issues to the conversation. Because beyond the money, then I will think, then what? But as long as the money is the center of the conversation, it is easy for bribery, voter bribery, to take precedence. But when we say it is beyond the person, and now we are talking about the issues and the policies, it is easy to re-engineer that conversation and ensure that hata ukija na pesa yako, nobody is going to vote for you. But for as long as we continue having the politics of personalities, then we cannot change this issue, because the personality will align themselves with whatever coalition is leading. And as we always know, we've had a 2-horse race. I don't know where that came from. We've never had alternative leadership, because this moment in Olkalau was a moment for a leader to take up the issues and come out as an alternative leader. But we didn't. So for as long as we keep having the conversation of a 2-race horse, which we were seeing going on, then we will align with the horse that has a lot of money and come to the ground with the money. But for as long as we can put issues at the center of the conversation, then we can easily move away from voter bribery.
At what point do issues get lost to Kenyans? Because today, Chep, if you speak to Kenyans out there, anybody, even if you just get into a taxi, ukoaje, nangangana, kwa nini, uchumi ni mbaya, shule, healthcare, everything. You'll have these conversations with Kenyans and you understand where their heart is at, what it is they're thinking about. But gets to the election day and everything we've complained about for 4 years, we forget, we go back to our people. Afadhali huyu mwizi wetu mwenye tunajua, because others, anyway, when they get there, we allow them to eat, provided they bring some crumbs to us. At what point does it get lost to us as wananchi that we've complained for quite a long time that it's our time to change, but mlolongo ni ule ule?
It is good you ask that question. I recently had a conversation where, by the time we are making the decision to vote, the choice has already been made for us. Why and how? Political parties make the choice for us. By the time we are talking about the candidate of DCP, the candidate of UDA, the candidate of Jubilee, that choice was made at the party primary. We are just making the final decision. Why am I saying this? We will talk about the issues, but because of how our politics is structured, we are likely to retreat to our tribal cocoons. Our political parties are made up of tribes and personalities. They are not made up of agendas. And so, when the time comes, when the rubber meets the road, what do? We retreat to what is familiar, unfortunately. Again, Kenyans are not part of political parties. So we are not part of the choice that is made for us at the onset of the politics. We come in too late as Kenyans to choose what has been made, to make a choice of what political parties have already chosen for us. Okay. So kama tuchagulia mwizi, tuko na wezi watatu. So we only have to decide between. So
it's like when you're in a like a buffet setting. Yeah. You don't have a choice.
No.
What is on the buffet
is what you will serve.
However, what we are saying here is that if Kenyans were in the kitchen saying that today we will have the beef stew, chicken stew, we don't like the fish stew because it could go bad somewhere down the line, this is what we are going to pick, this is what will be on the table, then now you have a say. You don't have a say when it's already been served.
No. No. Because think about it. What would make a Kenyan say, Uyu tunachagua mwizi wetu? It's because how many thieves were brought forward? You had 3. So like you said, you have to pick the lesser evil. But if we are at the onset of the conversation, at the party primaries to say, huyu hatutaki hata kumwona kwa ballot.
Yes.
It means we have a chance as Kenyans.
So what does that mean? That Kenyans have to join political parties?
If that is what it takes for us to change this conversation and for us to change the choices that are given to us at the end, which is at the ballot, then clearly we have to do something.
We also then run roughshod with the problem. Because political parties, by and large, are not doing what they were originally intended to do. That political parties are used as individualistic vehicles to pursue a particular agenda. And then somewhere along the line, we bring people in and say, okay, we need to have numbers. As opposed to saying, these are our ideology that we stick with, and we say that ours is the economy. We will sing, eat, sleep, drink, wake up in the middle of the night saying economy. That's how you know, okay, these guys. So anybody who knows that the economy is the panacea, sorting out the economy is the panacea to all our problems, they join the party. Then you can say, within the party, we have seen Chepkoech knows that this is how to get things done. Let's give her this position. Dennis knows, then we give them that position. How do we re-engineer, I like that word, even the idea of political parties to then say, come on, guys, it cannot be one guy in his living room one day who says, you know what, I want to be a governor, so let me form a little political party. How do we change this thing?
I like this conversation today because we are going back to the roots and decide and just letting our fellow Kenyans rethink of how we are going to do things. Again, our political parties have never been made up of ideology. If we look even at our president, he has never used the same vehicle to vie for any election. Since URP to Jubilee to UDA, and now we don't know if there will be a coalition, to Kenya Kwanza to, we don't know how, if there will be a coalition in 2027. What am I saying? Anytime you keep changing vehicles, it is difficult to hold you accountable. And we change vehicles because we know the atrocities we have committed. And so I cannot come back with this vehicle because it has baggage. If I come back with it, it means you people will question me on you didn't do XYZ. So what do I do? Change outfit. Again, our Office of Registrar of Political Parties need to rethink of how we are registering these political parties. We have about 100 parties. You tell me why we need 100 parties. Yes, I know it is a democratic space, but in mature democracies, like you said, parties are known for something.
Stand for something. Yeah.
They stand for something. If we take the US, Republican and Democrats, they are known. It is clear cut that you're either on the left, on the right, extreme left, extreme right. That is inconsequential. But here in Kenya, if you are to ask Party X, what is your ideology? Even those who hold party positions have no clue what they stand for.
True.
They know that I followed this party because of person X.
Or because Chepkoech looked at me wrongly last month.
And so, So we have to go back to the basics as Kenyans and rethink our politics in totality. Re-engineer our politics in totality. It might be too late for 2027, but it is giving us a chance to finally think, okay, this is not what we want. We are too late to the conversation. Like in 2032, you people will find us looking.
Yeah. Chap, even as we re-engineer these political parties, right? I am equally looking at the kind of people that we end up voting. Umwizi ni afadhali kushinda yule mwingine. Why? Because there are loopholes within the law that people take advantage of, right? So you're serving time in jail, but because you can appeal, you are innocent until proven guilty, even when another court found you already guilty. But you can still run, right? But you're looking at political parties as vehicles within which give us individuals who can run, because political parties have room to have their own political party constitutions that determines the kind of people that they give to Kenyans. That means the vetting process at the political party level is lacking. It is missing the point because it is upon them and individuals that they give these party tickets, that we end up with lesser evil than the other. So if political parties stood firm on business and said we will only have clean individuals who can deliver as our members, as people that we give the party ticket, would that help in changing the situation?
Yes, it would help. But again, politics is about interest. I like how you anticipated the bat. Politics is about interest, unfortunately. Political parties' formation and putting forward of candidates, their end goal is to win the seat. And so, by hook or crook, they will want to win that seat.
Okay.
Chapter 6 of the Constitution of this country is just that. It is just Chapter 6. Nobody cares. We know it as it exists in the Constitution.
Right.
Nobody practices.
Look, it's interesting because there's certain things that have been said, which we're going to get into.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.